Dear God, today as this session opens, we pray that your presence will be before us and everyone who serves in the decision-making process of our city. We pray for direction which will lead our city to be strong and unified. May we continue the legacy of our founders. May we be granted this day the wisdom to make decisions which will be for the good of our city. We also pray for your special blessing on all those who are working to transform our city and make it a better place to live and work. Amen. Amen. Please remain standing for the pledge. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Would the clerk please call the roll?
Counsel Leary. Counsel Mercia.
Here.
Counsel Milanazzo.
Here.
Counsel Rourke.
Here.
Counsel Samaras.
Here.
Counsel Belanger.
Here.
Counsel Elliott.
Here.
Mayor Kennedy.
Here.
Counsel Leahy.
Here.
That's 8 present.
Council Mercia?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'd like to offer a moment of silence in darkened chamber for Helen Christina Green McGovern, a resident of Tingsboro who passed away at the young age of 65. Helen was the beloved wife of Paul M. McGovern. Helen was raised in Lowell. After graduation, she was employed as an aide at the Bedford Veterans Administration Hospital. She later worked in the cafeteria at the McCarthy Middle School for the Chelmsford School Department for over 10 years. And then she worked in the purchasing department for the city of Lowell. She retired last January. She worked for the city in the purchasing department for 16 years. She was a professional. She was well loved in these City Hall building. At this City Hall building. In addition to her loving husband, Helen is survived by her sons, Edmund P. McGovern and Paul W. McGovern. 4 grandchildren. She will be truly missed. The family would like to extend special thanks to all Helen's girlfriends who are by her side day in and day out throughout her illness, helping her in countless ways. We want to offer our sympathy to the family, and please know that she will be truly missed. Thank you.
Thank you. Under the mayor's business, we have several recognitions this evening. The first is the Cultural Organization of Lowell's Creativity and Makers Festival. Andy?
Hi, Andrew Jacobson from the Cultural Organization of Lowell, the board chair. I also got the executive director, Richard Bolton, and Liz Stewart from our organization as well. We just wanted to let you know that, past September, Creativity was the first art and maker festival in the city of Lowell. And we had approximately 3,000 people attend over the 2 days, which was great. We had beautiful weather. The artists and makers did an amazing job, and the performers, such as Encore Dance Troupe, who you'll be hearing from later, everyone, we had such great reception and such good positive results from it that we have a lot of people interested in coming back next year. So we wanted to thank, obviously, the city and the city manager for all the help that you provided, and all the departments as well that provided the help during this weekend, because operationally and logistically, this thing went very, very smooth, and without your help, we couldn't make this happen. So thank you for helping us.
Thank you. And thank you for putting it on. On behalf of every member of the City Council, I think I'd just like to say congratulations on the first annual festival, and I think everybody's looking forward to next year being even bigger and better. So thanks again, and congratulations.
Yeah, I was down there, and I thought it was it was a 2-day event, and it was just another example of the city jumping in and putting on a great event that attracted a whole new set of people to the city. So, and thanks to Andy and the group, because they did all the work.
Thank you. Council Mercia.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. And anything possible so beautiful as that could bring people into our city to expend their money in different restaurants and different, to see our city. And so it's a destination city thanks to great ideas such as yourself. Thank you so much for making that happen for the city.
Thank you, Councilor. Councilor Belanger.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Well, Festival City USA is at it again. This was a wonderful, wonderful festival. It was a beautiful day. It was nice to see all tents, dozens and dozens of them on Market Street, small 10-by-10 pop-up tents with arts and crafts. Very unique festival here, and that's what it takes. And what's the end result? A better than average day for the downtown businesses. So a wonderful day, a wonderful event. I look forward to next year's event, which will certainly take place, and I want to thank Andy and Rich Bolton for their work, their creativity, and their intestinal fortitude to make this event a success and downtown Lowell a destination. Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Councilor. Councilor Samaras.
No, I think all of us would be remiss if we didn't say something about this event. I mean, these are events that we've been looking forward to, and this art event especially, and you pulled it off. One thing that has to be mentioned also, there were young entrepreneurs that had stands there, and they were being able to sell their wares and tell people about what the products are all about. But this is a very positive thing for the city, and this is something that when you talk about Lowell becoming a destination city, but during this event also you saw the diversity of the city, you saw the strength of the city. So I want to commend everybody, and especially the group that managed all of this. It's not easy to do, but it did happen, and it was well done. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor. And thanks once again. And in keeping with the Festival City theme that Councilor Blanchard referred to, we also recently held the Lowell Celebrates Kerouac Festival, and there are people, some of the organizers from that festival are here as well. Do you want to come to the microphone, Steve?
Thank you, Mayor Kennedy. I'm Steve Eddington, a member of the Lowell Celebrates Kerouac Committee for the last 20 years or so. Other members here are our President Judith Brissett, founding member Roger Burdell, Alice, our Vice President Cliff Whalen, Bill Walsh, John McDermott, and Bacon. And we've been committed to preserving the literary cultural legacy of Lowell's native son, Jack Kerouac, and we're especially pleased with the results of the latest Kerouac Festival that was held this past October 5th through 9th as we observed the 60th anniversary, the publication of his signature novel, On the Road. Our festival this year included a theme talk with John Leland, feature writer for the New York Times, author of Why Kerouac Matters. He was supported by the Greeley Parker Lecture Series. Tours of the neighborhoods Kerouac writes about, led by Roger Burnell. Poetry competition, Kerouac-themed art exhibits. And we were especially pleased this year to have performances by jazzman, Kerouac companion Dave Amram, and feature performances by musician Will Daly, indie rocker Kevin Devine at Zorba's Music Hall. And we're really pleased. I want to thank the interest, the support both Mayor Kennedy, Councilman Samaras have certainly shown toward us and helping gain the support of the city of Lowell. We're just really gratified by that. We appreciated all your help in the past with the Kerouac Park, with some of our cleanup efforts and the use of the electronic equipment over there for some of our events. And this year we're especially appreciative of the support of the George Duncan Family Fund by way of the Greater Lowell Community Foundation in making Mr. Devine's presence possible over at Zorba's. So it's really a really wonderful weekend. We're hoping, anticipating this year's festival will mark an ongoing partnership with the city of Lowell, which we like so much, and the city's various other arts and cultural entities in helping take our Kerouac festivals to even greater heights. So again, Mr. Mayor, Councilman Samaras, all of you, thank you so much for your interest in us. And we just want to keep building. We hope that we can, all of us together, make Jack Kerouac's star shine even brighter here in his hometown, for which he had such great affection and to which he devoted five of his novels. Thank you again, all of you, so much.
Thank you.
And I'm pleased to be here on behalf of my fellow committee members as well.
And once again, on behalf of the City Council, I just want to thank you and the entire committee for keeping the the Lowell Celebrates Kerouac Festival alive. I think this year was probably better, one of the best that we've had in recent years, and I think we're all hoping that next year is even bigger and better than that. So congratulations and thank you very much. Next, we have the Merrimack Valley Food Bank's Food Day.
Thank you. Thank you so much for welcoming me here tonight. And in addition to the numerous cultural extravaganzas that we have here in the city, we're also fortunate to operate in a community that is focused on well-being for all of our residents. And the Merrimack Valley Food Bank is just one of the several organizations that is in charge of celebrating Food Day, which this is our 5th year of celebrating that here in the city of Lowell. And this year, we will be holding that on October 24th, which is always Food Day every year. And at the Lowell Senior Center, we'll be there from 2 to 4 p.m. This year, we will have a resource fair of sorts, and it will be focused on food and health. There will be blood and glucose screenings. There will be flu shots available. Some of the invited guests include Hannaford Supermarkets, which is focused on nutrition for all of the customers and residents in the city. Elder Services of Merrimack Valley, of course, the Lowell Senior Center, CMAA, New Entry Sustainable Farming Project, UMass Lowell, Mill City Grows, Aramark, the Hunger Homeless Commission of Lowell, the Greater Lowell Health Alliance, UTEC, the Mill City Grows Farmers Market, Project Bread will be coming with information about HIP and SNAP for people to learn more information about they can maintain good health through food. We're fortunate also to tell you about another part of the celebration, although it's the day after Food Day. On October 25th, the Hunger Homeless Commission of Lowell will hold its annual spaghetti dinner. That will be at the East End Club from 4:30 to 7 p.m. We appreciate the opportunity to talk with all of you about that. We hope that you can join us at one or both of those events. And again, we appreciate the support of all of the organizations in Lowell, profit and nonprofit, to keep us all healthy and entertained. Thank you.
Thank you. And last but not least, we have the Encore Dance Troupe that would like to announce an event, and with that will be a little entertainment. So please come to the microphone.
Good evening, council members, mayor, city manager, and everybody in this chamber. My name is Davi Tran. I'm the executive director for Encore Dance Troupe. This weekend, we are very excited to announce our annual residency will be taking place at the Irish Auditorium at Lowell High School. And today, we actually have a little bit of an excerpt from the actual show for your viewing. But this Friday, we also have a special reception before the actual show, which we invite all of the council members, as well as the mayor and the city manager, to join us. More information can be found at our website at www.ancoredance.org. I know in your packet, the council members have the invitation and flyer, but I also brought one to show our audience. So this is the story of Pratao Ning Nye, and this is the origin of the Cambodian wedding. So if you've ever been to a Cambodian wedding, you must wonder, why does the bride and groom dress so elaborately? So they're actually embodying the prince and princess of this story, who, with their marriage, created the kingdom of Cambodia. So we hope that you will make us part of your weekend this week. So I might actually pass this around the chambers for everyone to see. Council members, you will have a smaller version of this in your packet to take home. And we also like to announce that special ticketing for our elders, those who are, for us, we consider elders as 55 and older. as well as all of our young people have tickets will be $5 for them to encourage further participation and better access. So we hope that you can join us, all young and experienced, for this weekend. So I will actually hand it off to my performance coordinator, who's with me this evening, Emily Horn, as well as one of our principal dancers, Peter Chia, were kind enough to join me. In this scene, you will see two of our principal dancers. One is our assistant artistic director as well. She's been dancing over 25 years with us. And the other person is Virginia Pratt. You may remember her as Miss Cambodia America, but to us, she's been one of our dancers since the age of 9 years old. So I hope you can help me in welcoming them with a round of applause. Again, that is Chana Sath and Virginia Proc in the role of Ning Ni and Prataung. You will see them this weekend if you join us. And the scene that you just saw was when they just first met for the first time. So I hope that you can join us Friday and Saturday at 7:30 at the Irish Auditorium, very close, walking distance from here. And any questions, please feel free to contact us on our website, www.ancordance.org. Thank you.
Thank you very much. That concludes the mayor's business for this evening. So now we'll move on to the city
Mayor-
clerk.
Mr. Mayor,
Uh,
I'm tucked in the
Councilor
corner.
Samaras.
I just want to thank Davitron for this presentation tonight and congratulate them on making the Cyrus Auditorium at Lowell High School their new home. I think that's great. But I just missed, when we had the presentation from the Kerouac Foundation people, I think it would be nice if we sent a letter of thank you to Mr. Duncan for his support of the Kerouac Festival, because it's people like him that make these things possible. And I think he really stepped up to the plate, and I think it's important that we acknowledge that.
Absolutely, Council. I think
Thank
that's a
you.
great idea. It probably would also be a good idea to send a letter to the owner of the Indianapolis Colts, who also made a substantial donation as well. So,
Right, thank you.
all right, under the city clerk, we have the minutes of the city council meeting for October 10th for acceptance. Do we have a motion to accept and place on file by Council Milonazo, second by Council Rourke? Discussion, all in favor, all opposed, so voted. Next, under communications from the city manager, we have responses A through J. The first one is the drive for Puerto Rico. Any discussion? Council Rourke.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just thank you, Mr. Manager. I know you reached out to different departments in the city, and the outreach has worked. I know they've collected a lot of supply items for the drive, and then I know the city will work with Lawrence to take care of this and make sure that other supplies are transported.
Yes, I have to thank Chief Jeff Winwood from the Fire Department and Michelle Romalo from the Senior Center, because they're the ones who organized it. The goods are being stored right now on the stage at the Senior Center, will be transported to Lawrence and then down to Puerto Rico to help out the victims. So it's
Thank
a
you.
great, very successful drive.
Any further discussion on the drive for Puerto Rico? If not, we'll move on to the abandoned steel pole at the corner of Campbell Drive and Wedge Street. Any discussion? Hearing none, we'll move on to the update regarding 392 Princeton Boulevard. Any discussion regarding that update? Council Mercy.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Through you to the city manager, could I just know where we're going with 392? I went by the other day. It doesn't look like, I know that there's something in the works, but I'd like to know, when do we have anything happening?
It should be completed this week. If you go by on your way home, it's 3/4 the way done.
Oh, good. 392,
392.
not 131.
That one's, the grass is growing at 131.
Okay, so we're concentrating now on 392.
We are, Counselor.
Because I don't want to disappoint the gentleman. He was so happy to hear we were going to do it, and then some weeks went by, and I think he didn't believe me, so I'm hoping that we get it done. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor. Any further discussion? If not, we'll move on to the speed radar. Any discussion regarding the speed radar? Councilor Samaras.
Thank you, and I want to thank the chief for this report. The question, we're going to use some grant money to hopefully get some of these signs, but if there's no grant money available, is there any way programs like this can be paid for or funds sought out for? Chief?
Excuse me, before he addresses, I forgot one thing about the drive to Puerto Rico, which I think is very important, is we are sending down 6 police officers in two and two, to provide security measures in Puerto Rico also, and I just want to thank the chief for making that happen for the residents of Puerto Rico. The question is, if we don't get grant money, is there other funding that we can tap into? I would suggest in a future capital outlay or something like that, Chief.
Thank you, Mr. Manager, and through the mayor to Councilor Samaras. We do have other funds available to us through traffic enforcement funds that we generate through enforcing the traffic, and then the money does eventually, a portion of it, come back to the department. So we can utilize those funds. That's where we purchase the existing speed boards. So I have people going to a vendor display next week, and we'll have an opportunity to look at the technology that's available and get some pricing. So I expect that we'll be able to pull 1-2 more on very quickly.
The 2 that you presently have, what's the usage of those?
They're out constantly, Counselor. They're in locations that either the police department, the administration, or the city council, or citizens have indicated to us excessive speed is an issue. So we have them out constantly, and we rotate them around the city in various locations.
What's your feeling? Do they at any point, because they're utilized so often, I mean, do they have a negative effect at any point, or do you see this as always a positive?
No, I would, my opinion is that they're generally a positive impact. They have the ability, they have the net impact of reducing the speed. People become conscious of their speed. Sometimes, very often, you'll see that people drive down neighborhood streets. They're not even aware of the speed they're going. So this does give them that educational component.
I know you're correct on that, because some people from the different neighborhood groups have spoken to us on the possibility of having them permanently assigned to their areas of concern. I know that's kind of difficult. But you also have the smaller signs. How much do the smaller signs cost that you can put on the post and they just basically make you aware of the speed?
So they range currently from approximately $5,000 for the...
Even those?
Yeah, they were about $5,000 because they're self-contained and they have to go out. They're usually, those smaller ones are powered by a solar-powered type of unit. And they can go up to about $20,000 depending on the complexity and their ability to display different messages. We can access them remotely now through our network system. So generally speaking, I think it's good to have several of them around the various capacities.
Okay, thank you for that. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Councilor. Any further discussion on this matter? If not, we'll move on to the turnout gear. Any discussion regarding the turnout gear? Councilor Leahy.
Thank you. I just, can we get an explanation from the manager on this? It looks like it's good news. Thank you.
Yes, it's excellent news, and basically, this city council in the last capital plan authorized a matching grant for what we were applying for turnout gear. Unfortunately, we didn't get the grant, but we do have that $128,413 available right now. So what we're going to do is we're going to immediately purchase 55 new sets of turnout gear with that capital money, and an additional 32 sets are going to be procured through the operating budget of the fire department, in addition to 50 sets of gloves and 40 sets of boots in this money pool. So that equipment will be purchased immediately. After those purchases, that means the fire department would need to purchase an additional 122 sets of turnout gear for a cost of roughly $270,000 in order for each firefighter to have 2 sets of gear, both within the recommended 10-year useful lifespan. The fire department would also look to purchase 60 pairs of boots at the cost of $22,500. So what we're doing is we're looking for funds to purchase these during this fiscal year if we can identify them. But at any rate, in fiscal year 19's capital plan, which will be passed in May, we will include the amount of money necessary to satisfy the 2 sets of turnout gear for each and every firefighter in the department.
That's great news. Appreciate all the work that you and your finance team did on that, so thank you.
Thank you, Councilor. Councilor Belanger.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Mr. Mayor, through to the manager. Mr. Manager, great work to to search out these funds to get this done. This is very, very important. This turnout gear needs to be changed periodically because these things can retain cancer-causing agents, which obviously some serious long-term effects to our firefighters out there in the street, which I think the chief at the podium can elaborate a little bit better. So I'd like him to chime in and explain the added benefit, the real benefit to these, to this equipment to our firefighters, both short and long-term health, Mr. Mayor. Thank you.
Chief Winwood.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Yes, Council, that's correct. I'd like to thank the council and the city manager for their support on this matter. Having 2 sets of turnout gear is very, very important. When a firefighter goes to a fire, the gear gets dirty and the soot on the gear causes cancer. So because of the support of this council, we were able to purchase 1 washing machine extractor. We're going to be purchasing 7 more in the very near future. So we'll be able to rotate the gear, we'll be able to clean it after each fire, And along with a comprehensive program that we're developing, we're going to try to eliminate some of the terrible cancers that are plaguing the fire departments across the country. So by replacing the turnout gear and installing these washing machine extractors, it'll go a long way towards protecting our firefighters.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. It's, again, the chief just said it all, money well spent, absolutely. Great investment, very happy to see it done. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Councilor Samaras.
No, thank you. No, I want to congratulate the city manager and his staff for doing what they've done and to identify funds to purchase this turnout gear. The way I look at this turnout gear, it's something that it's actually absolutely required if we want our firemen to be safe. It's like bulletproof vests for the policemen and what have you. But, Mr. Manager, is it possible, once the purchases have been made and the fire department has, we'll say, the necessary turnout gear that is required, the 2 per man, is it possible when they request turnout gear for later on to replace as they get older, that it be an item that can't be cut? What happens, what I'm talking about, when we have our budget, you know, the first thing to be cut, we don't want to cut personnel, but you cut materials, you cut gear, you cut different pieces of equipment. But that's the type of equipment that's really necessary. So, I mean, is there a way of identifying certain things as such a high priority, only in the direst of circumstances would they be cut?
No, well, we've already started planning. We're going to, rather than rely on capital plans or grants, we're going to build it right into the operating budget of the fire department so that we can purchase these sets as they become necessary in the future.
Okay. But you understand my point of, I mean, at least identifying and creating it as a priority, because I use the school department, but the thing is, textbooks are cut, materials cut, materials for custodians too, but this is different. This is about safety of personnel. So thank you for that.
Thank you, Councilor Rourke.
Thank you, Mr. Manager. Quickly, the washing machines, are they on their way?
No, they're not. What's going on with the washing machines?
The cost of the next 7 machines is over $50,000, so we had to go out to bid, and we had to advertise in the local newspaper. So we do have 1 extractor downtown, and we have some older washing machines we're using now, and we hope to get the other 7 installed very soon.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Any further discussion? Councilor Leahy.
I just wanted to add one thing that Councilor Samaras made a good point, but I did want to let everybody know at home and hear that we have had those discussions with the manager and the chief and the union leadership, Chris Ryder, about replacing these on a regular basis, because it's about time, and I'm glad that your administration is working towards that. So, and this council, this is important, so it's a good thing that we're fitting that into the budget now. Thank you.
Thank you. Any further discussion? If not, we'll move on to senior transportation. Any discussion regarding senior transportation? Councilor Mercer.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. This is a very important issue to me, and it surely paid off to beg because you are delivering, and I'm so proud that you're doing that. I'm very happy because it's well needed, and I know that we need an extra person to drive the vehicle. The people that we have are doing double duty as inside the senior center and doing other things, so it's very good that you're doing it, and I'm very grateful, as our seniors are as well. Thank you.
Mr. Manager.
Let me explain what we've done. What happened is the existing scenario was that there are 2 bus drivers that share half the day is driving the bus, half the day custodial services. Right. So what we did is we're now going to hire a full-time custodian, which is now going to allow the 2 bus drivers to transport the seniors on a full-time basis. But we also talked to the LRTA, and because they're no longer going to have to transport seniors from their houses to the senior center and back, they're going to be able to transport all of those seniors to their medical appointments. Right. So that's the greatest thing also, is that the LRTA has partnered with us and guaranteed that they're going to do the medical transportation also. And that was the biggest thing. They were getting canceled at the last minute. You can imagine how traumatic that was for a person, but now that won't be happening.
Well, I'm very grateful. So are our seniors. Thank you, Mr. Manager.
Thank you, Councilor. Any further discussion on this item? If not, we'll move on to the high school fire safety concerns. Council Samaras.
Thank you. Could Chief Winwood come up? Through you, Mr. Mayor. Chief, I want to thank you for this report. It's a very complete report. You talk about the, how new schools are built with the non-combustible materials and what have you. What about refurbished schools? If you're going to refurbish a school, do they have to be brought up to these standards?
Yes, any significant renovation of a new school would have to come up to the same codes as a brand-new school would. Some of our older schools in the city don't have some of the fire protection that either a brand-new or a fully renovated school would have, but a fully renovated school or a brand-new school would have to have the same fire protection in both buildings.
All right, with that said, as I stated before, I wanted you to look at the plans because I was concerned when they stated that they were lowering the ceilings so the high school the five-story building would not have to meet the high-rise standards. But you feel that there's enough safety equipment in there to deal with that. But a couple of questions that you brought up, if it met the high-rise standards, there would be the fire room or the fire command room. What is that? What's a fire command room?
Near the front door in a high-rise where there are apartment buildings and it might be 50 or 75 or 100 stories, there would be a fireproof room where the incident commander would go. And there'd be the fire alarm control panel. There'd be an intercom system where he could talk to people. And in today's codes, it is required in any residential building. Residential buildings are much more dangerous because people are sleeping at night.
Yeah. But we're talking about a high school. My concern is the number of students. You talked about there are five-story buildings at the university, but they don't have the number of students in their building as we would have. And that's my concern. Wouldn't we have a room like that? Wouldn't it be best to have some type of,
It could certainly be added to any kind of a design. There'd be a cost to it. My feeling is the most important thing is to have an automatic notification to the fire department.
Yeah.
A good modern fire alarm system, good sprinkler system, fire doors. Those things to me are a lot more important.
All right. How about the pressurized stairs? I found that interesting.
Yeah, again, in a large high-rise full of hundreds of people at night, with maybe 500 or 1,000 kitchens, the fire danger is a little bit higher. So there might be pressurized stairways to keep the smoke out of the stairways. Once again, you could design that into a school. It's not the norm, but
I understand, but the thing is, it's 5 stories. You're talking. I think the high school would reach a potential of 3,500 students. It's a lot of students. The issue is your men do a very good job with the fire drills. You do at least 4 a year, and the students react positively. But I've also been in a situation when fear sets in, and all of the rules that you have don't seem to be followed because people just get frightened. And how expensive is it to do something like a pressurized stair? That's, to me, is vital because they can't use the elevators, during
Correct.
that time. So.
yeah, I don't have that number. I'd have to talk to a design professional about that. But it could certainly be looked at, and there would be an added cost to it, but it would add to the safety of the building.
Okay, thank you. One more question. You talked about the sprinkler system. You talked about the system could be handled, but Roger Street, Douglas Road, Village Street, the water mains, the capacity to handle the new system.
Yeah, there was a study recently done because of a new business out in that neighborhood, and it was found that there's a 6-inch water main out there, and it's gotten smaller over the years. So it doesn't have, it probably wouldn't have adequate water supply to a new high school out there. So the water department will recommend a 12-inch main be installed in the neighborhood to support all the other businesses out there, as well as a new high school if it were built out there.
Actually, the thing is, do we need to do that anyways, whether you have a high school out there or not?
It probably should be done to support Hannaford's and the NTB out in that neighborhood. I believe the cost would be less if that were done without the high school. The latest estimate I got was $700,000 to replace the water main as is, and I think there'd be an extra $600,000 if there were a new high school in the neighborhood.
All right, is there anything else we should look for? Say, I mean, the issue of safety, I can't talk about it enough, okay? Because been there, done it, and you're talking about being responsible for a large number of students, and you want every advantage possible, and you want to say, well, we saved a few dollars here or there, and this is important. Is there anything else that has to be addressed?
No, I think that pretty much covers it. And again, there'd be a design team of architects and engineers who would come up with a design. Our fire prevention office would review that design and make sure it's up to today's fire and life safety and building codes. And we would make sure that any school, no matter where it's built, would be safe.
Question on downtown, you have the buildings downtown. Is there anything that has to be done to the downtown to ensure that, do we have the adequate water pressure for those buildings?
I haven't done any studies. The water department would hire their engineering firm to take a look at that, but I can't answer that question at this point.
Okay, thank you, but thank you for this report. It's well done.
Thank you. Thank you, Council Milonazo.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Through you to either the manager or to the fire chief. The first question, have we determined whether or not the design is high-rise? I know it was close, within a foot or 2 feet.
They designed it under the high-rise standard.
Under the high-rise. Okay, so the idea, if I could to the chief, the idea of needing a separate elevator, if it's a low-rise or a mid-rise, that would not be required? A separate elevator for fire protection, or would it be required in a 5-story building?
In a 68-foot building, it would not be required.
Required.
The theory being, if it was a 50-story or 100-story building, it's impossible to climb up to the top in a fire. So we would have a separate elevator for firefighting purposes.
Okay. And the last paragraph, just to comment, is that, and the chief is correct, that any plans, any design plans as they proceed, be it at Collier downtown, would be reviewed by the fire department to make sure that all of the current fire safety codes would be adhered to.
Absolutely. We work very closely with the building department, and both departments would review, along with the design professionals, and make sure everything's up to today's codes, which are much, much stricter than they were 20 years ago, 30 years ago, 50 years ago.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you, chief. Thank you.
Welcome. Any, Council?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Chief, quickly, in your experience, a brand-new building with sprinklers, have you ever heard of a student fatalities in regards to a fire?
No, a brand-new building with sprinklers is generally very, very safe. Most of our serious fires are in older wooden structures, with inadequate smoke detectors, people sleeping at night, people impaired. New schools especially are very, very safe.
Great, thank you.
Councilor Elliott.
Thank you. So, Chief, do you, I understand from the report that you get involved in the fire suppression and other aspects of it. Do you get involved when it comes to asbestos remediation and other hazardous? I know you have a hazmat team, but will you participate as part of the design and construction project process, asbestos remediation and other hazardous contaminants that are?
No, we generally haven't gotten involved in that type of design.
So who does that on the city level, Mr. Manager?
Mr. Slagle, who would deal with asbestos removal?
With respect to a city building?
Well, with respect to any potential construction.
With respect to things like construction, when you have to do with asbestos, we rely on the third-party professionals that are hired by.
So the LSP is going to be responsible for that oversight with the construction manager?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Are you all set, Council? Are there any other questions? Chief, could I just ask, you mentioned that in a 68-foot building, it would not be required. So in a 70-foot building, the requirements would change? Is that the distinction?
Yeah, that's the cutoff between a mid-rise or a high-rise building, 70 feet. Anything over 70 feet is considered a high-rise.
And so if it was 70 feet, what would be the differences? What would need to be included if it was 70 feet instead of
Things like pressurized stairwells. There'd have to be a fireproof command center for the incident commander. There'd have to be glow-in-the-dark lights in the stairwells, things like that to make the building a little bit safer when people are sleeping, on the 50th story, and there's a fire up there. It can be very dangerous.
Right, but this would not be a residential building, so.
Correct. The big thing about a school is nobody's sleeping in it at night, so that's one thing that makes it safer. And during the day, there's usually a lot of people in the building that would discover a fire quickly, along with the fire detection system.
Okay, thank you.
Welcome.
Anything further? If not, we'll move on to the infrastructure improvements and field replication. Any discussion? Council Milonazo.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I appreciate the report as a result of a motion by Council Leary and Council Samaras and Council Leahy. There's a lot of good information here. And just for the viewing audience, we're talking about $1.3 million that would need to be spent regarding the flooding and drainage issues on Alcott Street and Douglas Road. And we have known for a long time that there's drainage issues down in that Douglas Winwood Road, Alcott Street area. So that's about $1.3 million. And then when you look at the water and sewer upgrades that we talked about, actually when we were just talking with the fire chief, looking at doing the Rogers Street main, and that's $700,000, and then the main along Douglas Road is another $600,000. So again, that's substantial money. My question has to do with the Mr. Bellegarde's report regarding the replication of the fields at a cost of almost $2 million. My question has to do with the fields that are on the site plan that are adjacent to Douglas Road. Do we have a cost of those fields? I don't see, again, I could have just missed it. I don't see it in this report. And it's my understanding that those fields along Douglas Road as currently proposed would not be a reimbursable expense by the Commonwealth.
Are you talking about the replication of what the parking lot is?
Yes.
That was built in as part of the plan.
As part of what, as part of this plan? Or as
No,
part
I believe part of the plan.
Okay.
I think what we're looking at tonight, or at least what the spirit intent of tonight was the conversion of Cavallo Field from a solid field to a multi-purpose field, and then also taking into consideration establishing a multi-purpose field out on Boston Road.
Right. Right, and I understand that, but my question had to do with the fields along Douglas Road, and again, they're not, there was some place within this report that there was an 8% reimbursement on some of the cost. I don't know where that number came from, Mr. Mayor.
Yeah, that's what the MSBA will reimburse 8% for infrastructure improvements in the footprint of the Colley site for.
Okay, does that include those fields or not?
Yes, it does.
It does,
Yeah.
okay. Okay, thank you. Thank you.
Council Leahy.
Sure. I just had a quick question. When I'm not a mathematician either, but when I added up the cost for Manning Field, I think we underestimated it. I came out with $3,035,000. It was off by $1,065,000 from the bottom line. So just, because we're supposed to add all those from the construction of the new multipurpose, that's out there too? That's
Yes.
at Manning Field?
Yes.
All right, so unless I did something wrong, because I added all the numbers up and I came up with a bigger total than the 2 million. Because just up top, there's 2 million, right? The field,
There's certain,
subsurface, and, or is that the whole, you don't add the 1.3 in for the whole, you're just giving us the total, then breaking it down? Okay,
yes, there's
All
things that we think we can do to offset the costs.
all right, so that brings it back down to the almost 2 million.
1.9.
Okay. All right, I wasn't sure if that was all included. And I just have one other question that I brought up to the manager this morning. Can we just make sure, it's getting aggravating as we go along that different people come up and say that they're gonna throw a wrench in the way. Have we heard anything from Chelmsford or Tewksbury, just to make sure that, I hate to keep going down this road and then all of a sudden, surprise after surprise after surprise, so.
No, I haven't heard anything from I remember there was a quote by Paul Cohen in the paper. I can't remember it
Yeah.
off the top of my head, but that's the only thing I've heard from Chelmsford or Tewksbury or anywhere else.
Okay, all right, thank you.
Any further discussion? Council Samaras and Council Rowe.
Thank you. Mr. Bellegarde, in talking, thank you for this report. It really is, Ms. Young, it's a very complete report and you actually give a little history of some of the water problems. But there's a statement here, with Lowell High School at the Colley project, additional stormwater and sewage will increase the volume flowing into the Oakland truck sewer line, okay? And you talk about rainstorms and things like that. The one thing we've been blessed in this area, we haven't had some of the severe rain that they've had down south or what have you, but as weather patterns are, these things can happen. There are problems on Windward Road now at this point that whether there's a school there or not is not the issue. It has to be fixed. It has to be dealt with. But you talk about a $5 million project. What's the issue here? Can you just...
Mr. Young can handle that one. Thank you.
There's flooding that occurs during a pretty heavy rainstorm on Windward Road. It's due to that speed. That's about a 700-acre sewer shed. So you have rainfall and the combination of the storage in that area converging in that low point. That low point on Windward Ave is where we have the discharge when you have the heavy rains. Obviously, it impacts the neighborhood. So that's why the recommendation is for a storage project to, it's the 21st century. People shouldn't have storage in their streets.
But, okay, now, if you do the parking lot for the Colley project, and to take care of mitigate some of the problems that would happen, you're talking about a $5 million cost. What is involved there?
Underground storage tanks that would hold the flow during the rain water would be directed to there, it would be held in those storage tanks, and when the rain is over, it would be pumped back into the sewer system when it's low and the capacity could take it.
Okay. There's also a discussion here of the infrastructure site improvement are reimbursable up to 8%. What are you talking? What costs are you talking there for the reimbursement?
I'm not sure about the reimbursement costs on that.
Mr. Manager? Yeah.
That would be part of the partnership between Perkins Eastman's design of what infrastructure drainage has to be provided for the high school and what has to be provided to to rectify the problem that has to be done anyway. So that part of the drainage system that is related to the high school would be reimbursable up to 8%, but not the other part.
Okay. One more question. Basically, if you're going to build the high school there, this should be done or has to be done, or this would create or exacerbate the problems.
Either or, it needs to be done.
Okay. Thank you.
Council Rourke.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So, Mr. Young, so the fact that the high school is going there is going to alleviate all these problems, right? According to this report, it says we address the issues related. So right now there still is some overflow for intense rainstorms, correct?
On Windward Ave, yes.
So with the underground retaining system being put in place, that should address those issues, correct?
It would improve that neighborhood, yes.
Thank you.
Then Council Milonazo, then Council Belanger.
Thank you. Just quickly, when we talk about the parking lot, the Colley parking lot, and do the storage retained system underneath the parking lot, is that the existing parking lot where the ball fields are going to go, or is it the new parking lot, which is partially in Tewksbury?
Could be on either or location, depending on what the engineering studies would show would be the best area.
Okay, because it's my understanding the new zone, the new code, and you know better than I, that when you get beyond a certain square footage in a parking area, you actually have to do a separation, from what I understand.
Yes.
So is that what we're talking about here? And if
it could potentially be there. And with stormwater, a lot of the new technologies they're made so that you can have activities on top of stormwater storage, like ball fields and parks.
Okay.
We've seen that examples in other cities.
Well, again, I would think, I'm not an engineer, but I would think that to benefit Windward and Alcott and Douglas, it would have to be where the current parking lot is. And then as you get into Tewksbury and meet with the Planning Board and the Conservation Commission in Tewksbury, if they approve what we're planning, they would then have to design a whole new water retention system in the town of Tewksbury because, again, once you get above a certain square footage for a surface parking lot, you have to separate sewer and water. You have to separate it all.
That's correct.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you, Council Belanger.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. While Mr. Young's at the podium, now the drainage upgrades at Douglas, Wynwood, and Alcott were raised before the high school issue came up, and this council made it perfectly clear that we want these upgrades done. These residents need relief, and it's going to be done anyway. I wouldn't exactly attach it to a high school cost. But with that being said, Mr. Mayor, through you to Mr. Young. Mr. Young, where are we with these upgrades in the process, and how soon can we expect this to be done?
Right now, there isn't any funding to do these upgrades. These are proposed upgrades, along with other upgrades, infrastructure improvements for wastewater and water in various areas of the city. I will be approaching city management to request funding for these and some others too, shortly.
Okay, Mr. Mayor, through you to the manager. Mr. Manager, how are we gonna, these funds need to be appropriated for these upgrades. These residents need relief. So how are we gonna go about this in FY 18, I imagine, or 19?
We'd have to come in with a loan order to fund it. So we'll meet with Mr. Young, get an assessment, and then we'll proceed accordingly.
Okay, please keep us updated. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor. Any further discussion? Councilor Elliott.
I just want to clarify some of the funding questions. So it needs to be done anyway. As part of the high school project, 80% reimbursement, could there be, does this have to be, well, as the memo states, as part of the design, whether it's the parking lot and or other locations, some of these costs can be absorbed in this loan order. Just want to make that clear, that this isn't separate and distinct. Similarly, when we built some of the other high schools, we'd use eligible costs for a playground that could be used for other purposes. So my point is, there is some cost sharing that can be done as a result of this. It has to be done anyway. But why not try to kill two birds with one stone and save some money and roll it into the project out there as it exists, right?
Yes, I think that's what Mr. Young was saying.
Got
is
it.
that
I just want to make sure that
be a
that was the case,
partnership.
that this is not in addition and on top of. Well, it is, but it's separate and distinct. But if work is going to be done out there, then this cost that would normally be borne by the enterprise fund, I'm sure there'll be a cost share, but that it can be covered, which I just want to make clarification. That's good. Thank you.
Councilor Milonazo.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I don't want to be ruled out of order, but I do plan to file a motion for next Tuesday's meeting, and I'm going to ask the city manager through the CFO to come up with a list of all of the items that we received over the last 3 weeks from the standpoint of ancillary costs, and give us a plan as to how we plan to pay for them, and if we can afford to do it. Because, again, I agree that the Wynwood Road work needs to be done. It's a $5 million item. It's not in my calculations when you add in all of the other ancillary costs. And again, I'm already up over $12 to $14 million of what we've talked about in the last couple of weeks. So again, I will file a motion next Tuesday, but I just wanted to alert the CFO that that's something that I think this council really should take a look at. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilor Samaras.
Thank you. I think one of the things you stated, it was stated that the reimbursement would be 8%. Could you explain that 8% again as to what it applies?
No, that's not for really Mr. Young. That's for the MSBA reimbursement schedule, is they will reimburse 8%, up to 8% for the infrastructure costs related to the high school.
Okay, just 8%, not 80% or whatever. Okay, the thing about if we don't build the high school there, would you build the same water program that you would with the high school, or would it be?
Yes, except for the water line down Village. We would do that water main replacement on Rogers, and we would do the stormwater storage off of Douglas.
Okay, basically you have to do it right whether you have the building there or not.
Right.
Okay.
Correct.
That's a good point. Mr. Manager, can you actually, look, this report's a good report, but the thing is, clarify what can be reimbursed by the state and what can't be reimbursed. In other words, if we can, the more we can fold into the high school funding, the better off we are. I know that, but I'd just like to have a very clear picture of what we're talking about, what money we can fold in, what aspects, or what monies are our responsibility, and how much. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor. Councilor Mercia.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'm so amazed and grateful to see all the addressing that is being done to infrastructure, drainage, new sidewalks that otherwise probably would have been overlooked because we would be concentrating on other areas, but we're concentrating right there up in Belvedere with problems that, in situations that need to be addressed, but because of the impending controversy, we're addressing it more sooner than probably later. So I think this is a plus right here. New sidewalks, new infrastructure, new drainage. What more could you ask for? Beautification of a very beautiful neighborhood. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Councilor. Any further discussion? If not, I just have a couple of questions, maybe for Mr. Bellegarde. The parking lot out on Douglas Road, where some of the replacement fields will be placed, right? The softball field and then another multi-purpose field. Are you with me?
That's to be determined. I believe, I know there's a field going out in the parking lot. I believe the softball field may be.
So it's just a softball field? Is that what it is?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, yes, once the Perkins Eastman started designing and they took a look at the 5-story option, that actually allowed the initial plan to be revamped of putting both the softball field and a multi-purpose field out on the Douglas Road side. All that will be placed out on the Douglas Road side now is the softball field. The field hockey field, which was up on the Clark Road side, will actually remain in that section.
So do we know for sure, I mean, you said that that would be reimbursable. Do we know that for sure? Isn't that, the softball field is part of the Article 97 replacement. So why is that included? How do you know that? Is anybody sure that that is what's going to happen?
Yes, that was asked of both Skanska and Perkins Eastman. I think it was discussed back in a handful of the meetings, maybe May or early June, and that's part of the footprint of the school, and that's why it will be part of the reimbursement plan.
How big is the footprint of the school?
The acres?
No, just, if you could just describe the footprint of the school, because clearly the school's not going out to Douglas Road. So if that's included in the footprint, how large is the footprint of the school?
Just to give you a visual, I mean, that section of the back end from Clark Road along the side where the Janus rink is, and then back up to Douglas, and then also technically the alumni baseball field also. That's considered the Cawley footprint.
Okay. Do you think it might be prudent to ask the state agency having to do with Article 97 whether or not that can be reimbursable, those replacement fields, rather than just depending on what Skanska or Perkins Eastman tells us?
We could get a clarification, sure.
Do you think you could do that for next week?
Sure, we could, yes, absolutely.
Okay, and my last question is, what happens if the replacement field out in back of the cemetery doesn't work because of either wetlands or for whatever other reason? Maybe Chancellor doesn't want to cooperate or whatever. What is the backup plan? What's going to happen then if that's not squared away?
In terms of the wetlands issue, we've had it flagged, so the look at replicating those fields out there, we believe will work, even with the wetlands issue out there right now. The only piece would be the town of Chelmsford, in terms of, approving that.
That is not my question. My question is, what if it doesn't work? What if there's a roadblock that becomes insurmountable? What is Plan B?
In terms of Plan B of replicating those fields, I'm not sure at this point. We're working on the fact that EOEA and the legislation approved those fields. I would assume at that point we would probably have to go back and work with both EOEA and the legislature to come up with a Plan B.
Okay, we don't have a Plan B right now?
No, not as of right now.
Okay, thanks. Does anybody have any other questions? Council Milonazo, then Council Blanchard, then Council.
Thank you. I don't think I'm the only counselor that's in the dark, but have there been other site plan changes made to the Colley site that we need to know about? I did not know that that other field was taken out of the site plan at this particular point. I know that there was a surprise when it went from 4 stories to 5 stories, but I thought that what was submitted to the MSBA was what we all saw on the last day that it went into them. But now you're saying that that utility field, if you will, of the lacrosse field that I thought was adjacent to the softball field is now gone.
No, so it's not gone, Counselor. It's, there's still the lacrosse field, the / field hockey field. That is still on the Colley site. If you remember, initially it was, right now, it's up at the Clark roadside. We tried to put it as a joint field with the softball field, and I believe the plan that was voted on had that softball field on Clark, and then the field hockey field up on, I'm sorry, the softball down on Douglas, and the field hockey field back up on the Clark Road area.
Okay. Again, the plan that I recall was that it was still, the lacrosse field was still on Douglas Road. So again, if there are any, again, any other changes that, I would like to know about, I would certainly hope the administration would share those with us. Thank you.
Thank you, Council Blanchard.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Mr. Mayor, through you to Mike Montgomery again. Mike, through the mayor made a comment about if what's a plan B in the event that field does not go through. Now, the EOEEA approved our field replication plan, correct?
Correct.
As a whole. Did it not, if my memory serves me correct, it's not in front of me, didn't our plan have a net gain of about 8 or 9 acres?
It did. That was a lot of passive recreation area up at the reservoir up on the top of the hill. I can't believe I couldn't remember that. And then also by leaving the field out at Clark Road, that included in the net gain as well.
Okay, so does any of that extra additional 8 acres we're gaining in green space in the event, could we make up in those areas for what Councilor Kennedy is talking about?
It would probably be difficult. We could take a look at, if you visualize the reservoir, you come up 6th Street to the top of the hill, and on the left-hand side of the reservoir, there is open space that is actually utilized right now by a lot of youth soccer programs for practice space, and that was one of the initial floats that we had with EOEEA when they came out and did the tour. They weren't opposed to that at all. But they like the fact that the Manning Field piece with fields out there, and then do just improvements to the reservoir site, walkways, lighting as a passive park. Ultimately, they said that there was, I believe, in the city of Cambridge, they had a similar situation with a reservoir, and the reservoir was actually, not in use any longer, and it was covered over and turned into fields on that reservoir, and they said that that would probably be an option for us, obviously at a cost, but that could be something that would be explored also.
Okay, so we have a few options in the event, technically, that could be explored if what Councilor Kennedy alludes to. So, all right, thank you very much.
Councilor Elliott.
Well, I just didn't, I just asked Ms. Bellegarde, is there any, what could be a potential pitfall for a field that failed? Why would we need a backup plan? Or what is the point? What would be the concern, Mr. Mayor?
Are you asking me? I think the concerns would be 2. One would be wetlands and how much wetlands is there. And the second one would be, it's not in Lowell, it's in Chelmsford.
So we get approval from the EEA, but there's never been, has there ever been any plans, any fields that we've done that have failed, that we haven't proceeded?
No, Councilor, what we try to do also is, whatever we build, we try to build toward regulation fields. That doesn't mean to say that, we couldn't critique it if we needed to, but walking through that area with several people over the last several months, other than Chelmsford, that's a good question, I don't know about Chelmsford, but in terms of what we have to work with out there, I think it's not only a good job, a good thing to do, whatever the school goes, but that's an area that's always been legal dumping, blighted, and just in its own right of a mini sports complex out there. I believe it can happen, and I think it'd be very beneficial to that neighborhood.
Right, I mean, that's my point. Regardless of the high school or the replication, this was, we were looking into this. I can remember having a conversation with creating more space with you in regards to Edwards or other soccer, so this was in the works anyway, and I hope there wouldn't be any failure because it benefits the city as well as this project. So I just want to make that clear that it's important that this doesn't fail for a number of reasons. One being creating more playing space and a sports complex for the kids of the city too. So, thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Any further discussion, Council?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Yeah, again, to Council Elliot's point, all these different, at the Reservoir, Ventura, at Manning Field, these are all improvements to these areas.
Correct.
Correct. And
Yes.
these are all, these making these areas, more accessible for people to visit, more areas for kids to play on. I mean, it's not a detriment at all that these things are happening.
No, it's a good thing.
Correct. All
It's
right.
a great thing.
Yeah, and again, the June 20th vote on the 5-story at Cawley, was the softball field on the left and the field on the right. And with regards to the Tewksbury, the parking in a field is allowed under the zoning. Any type of building is not allowed. That's correct, Mr. Manager?
That's not correct.
I didn't hear the
So
question.
the parking lot is something that's allowed to be built at the Cawley site.
The parking lot?
Parking lot, if it was in Tewksbury's land, without special permits, right?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, to the council. It comes up a little bit later in the responses, but
I read it.
in the Tewksbury, for the Tewksbury property out at Cawley, it's not clear, but it appears as though they maybe need to get a site plan special permit from Tewksbury in order to construct that parking in their
All right, thank you.
municipality.
Any further discussion on this item? Council Milonazo, then Council Lane.
Again, I understand where the conversation is going, but what we're talking about here is a lot of money. And again, I know we're all saying we're going to do it anyway, but at the end of the day, it's being driven by the Cawley site. So, again, we don't have a checkbook that, has a bottomless pit. So, again, the cost to the taxpayer already is, as I mentioned last week, is $14 to $20 million more than downtown. And then you add all of this other, again, certainly would improve, the quality of life for our residents, but at the end of the day, can we afford to do it?
Thank you, Council Leahy.
I just want to add that, these are going to be great improvements, but the problem is the stuff I'm hearing is not reliable. But the problem is when you're relying on Chelmsford and Tewksbury for your parking lots. And that's what we want to make sure. We don't go down this road, spend all this energy, and put all this money into plans, and then we get a hiccup because of the Tewksbury town or the town of Chelmsford. And that's all we want to make sure that it doesn't happen. These are going to be great things for the kids and for the city, but at the end of the day, if we get blocked, it's all for nothing.
Thank you, Council Mercia.
It's wonderful to try to know where we're going with the price. And it's wonderful to hear that people are concerned with the buck of the average taxpayer and how it's tough for them to afford things. I understand that. I'm in a predicament myself. But the fact remains that we can concentrate on the other option and say, what is the cost going to be for mitigating the eminent domain settlement? What is the cost that's going to be if we come across contamination and asbestos? And what is the cost of tracking that away? And what is the cost overruns? Technically, we actually don't know where we're going with this and the actual price. Because of the delays and the setbacks and the roadblocks and the walls that were put up there, we don't have people that can give us the actual cost estimates to what we're doing. So we cannot really safely grasp our straws and say, this is going to cost us millions of dollars and we can't afford it. Yes, we can afford it if we put our minds together and try to do the right thing for the taxpayer instead of making them believe that, oh, this is a doom and gloom. Oh my God, we can't do it. It's going to cost. Let's not scare the public because we don't know the actual answer. That is the darn truth. We don't know because of the roadblocks. Nobody professional is giving us answers that I can understand here. So
Thank you,
let's
Counselor.
not grab for straws that aren't even there.
Well, we're not grabbing for
Councilman
straws,
Malinazzo.
we're not grabbing for straws, Counselor. The numbers that we all have, the difference just in the cost to the taxpayer, not even talking about what we just went over, the sidewalks, the engineering, the fields, the extra cost to the taxpayer per month is $75,000 per month. Per month, over 30 years. That's $32 million, Counselor. That's $32 million. Those are the numbers that we currently have. So again, let's not say that we don't have the numbers, because we do have the numbers, and we cannot afford what we're talking about.
Councilor Samaras,
disagree.
then Councilor Elliott.
Yeah. Thank you, Mayor Kennedy. No, actually, I think this is one of the better discussions that we've had about this issue. The thing is, I can talk about the 22 building at downtown. When we had the $40 million renovation, most of the asbestos was taken out of that building, as was stated by one of the resources that were brought in by Perkins Eastman. But the issue is, I want to know what the prices are for downtown. I want to know what the prices are for Cawley. As was stated, I mean, we state sometimes we want to do the best thing we can for our children. I'm 150% for that. But we also owe our taxpayers the answers. We have to say to our taxpayers, we're going to try to give you this, but we're going to look at the costs. We just can't say, the heck with the costs, we're going to do what we have to do, because when it comes down to the actual building, I've seen this so many times in the number of years I was in the Lowell school system, in which, well, take the 1980 rehab of downtown, when they built the Lord Building and the new gymnasium. There were major cuts made just before, because it was too much money, let's cut. When I had the $40 million renovation, different type of laws, different type of applications, and we found problems. Now we know what the problems are. But when we talk about other schools, middle schools, elementary schools, the cost cuts, Stocklosa School, where they're missing 4 rooms, these things happen. But I think what's important, what I think most of us are trying to say is, let's be able to say to the taxpayer, Mr. Manager, this is where we need your help. We have to say to the taxpayer, this is what the actual cost will be if we build at Cawley. This will be the actual cost if we build downtown. If we build at Cawley, we're going to have these ancillary things. If we do, let's get it all out on the table. I have no problem with that. That's what we're here for. What we're here for is to ensure that our taxpayers, our constituents that watch this program, as some people refer, a show, they watch the city council because they want to watch government in action. What they want with government in action is answers. And I think, and I want to commend the city manager for these last few reports. This is what we've been looking for. I mean, it's difficult to give specific answers, but you've given us the range, and you've given us the problems, and you've given us ways of mitigating those problems. So now the next step is to try to put as good a picture as we possibly can with this information. And I support Mr. Councilor Malinazzo's request next week to look at the costs and see if we can, round them off and give some cost figures. So I like what's happened tonight. I think we've had a good discussion. Sometimes it can be upsetting to us, but the issue is we're getting at what the costs actually are. We're dealing with some of the issues, so there are no surprises. I'm happy with what's going on. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Elliott.
I think it's good that we finally get the accurate numbers, because with all due respect to my colleague, Councilor Malinazzo, I don't know where he's coming up with these numbers. The difference between these high schools, and it's the latest report that we got from our consultants. The downtown site is $352 million. Cawley is $336. It's a smaller project. The district share is $143 for downtown and $140. It's a $6 million delta. So, I mean, I guess it's just a scare tactic, and that's the frustration that this body is being used for. It's just being used as every week a scare tactic. They're both expensive. We need to work with the state on the reimbursement. So with all due respect to my colleagues, I don't know what numbers he's using. I don't know where they're coming up with, but it just seems like there's exaggerated and inflated figures every single week, and people are getting scared no matter where it is, whether it's cost overruns or eminent domain or, each week it's busing, it's something else. And I get it. I understand that's how the game is played, but I think the most important thing is the footprint of the building and what is it going to cost. First and foremost. We just identified, the fields should be done anyway. They should be done. They were going to be done, and there is a plan of working with the private-public partnership to do that, so it is not going to cost taxpayers. So I just think we have to be fair, and we have to be honest and straight up, and not, and give straight answers instead of just, this political discussion all the time, because there's a difference of opinion. And I think that should be forthcoming, rather than everybody throwing out numbers that I think are not accurate, in my opinion. I just look at what our consultants, the people, the professionals that we hired, that we all voted unanimously to hire, and those are the numbers. So, thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Council. Council Milonazo, then Council.
Just quickly, I had numbers last week that I did share with Council Elliott since the last meeting, and the delta was higher than the $6 million that he's talking about. So I think it is important to get the numbers, the exact numbers. The reimbursable rate for downtown versus Cawley is substantially different. It's like 53% for Cawley and 58 or 59% for downtown, maybe even closer to 60% for downtown. So again, it is important, and I agree that we should get the correct numbers, but the numbers that I don't have them with me tonight, but the number that I had last Tuesday, I did scan and email to Council Elliott last week.
Thank you, Council.
You did.
Council
Excuse,
Samaras.
Mr. Mayor, can I just respond?
Council Samaras. Council Samaras said
He
his
was talking to me?
hand
Okay,
raised.
that's fine.
Well, thank you, Mayor Kennedy. No, the issue here, all of a sudden we throw terms out like scare tactics. All I've asked for, the only financial terms I've used are the figures given to me by you, Mr. Manager, and your staff. That's what I'm using. That's all I'm using. And what have I asked for? I'm just asking for, at some point, as you get this information and you've developed a good outline of information, your people have projected needs. So there's several ways you can project. This is projected need. We may not have to use it. These are sums and figures that we have come up with. All I'm asking for is as close as we can to get true figures that we can say to our constituents, this is what it's going to cost. This is what Cawley's going to cost. This was downtown cost. I'm not trying to exaggerate anything. I've just used the figures that we have here. I've asked the questions on the figures that we have here. My intention is not to upset anybody or use scare tactics. What it is here is to get information to our taxpayers, to our constituents, so we can say to our constituents, this is what it's going to cost you. That's all. I don't see how we can make this into anything else than what it is. Asking for information to do the right thing. And if the decision's Cawley, so be it. If the decision's downtown, so be it. But the taxpayer should know what they have to pay and whether we can afford it or not. Because when it comes right down to it, my fear is that there's going to be a pushback on the actual costs. So we have to do this right. We have one chance at doing this right.
Thank you. Before we go on, let me just remind the council that in response to Council Milonazo's motion, next week the manager will have a report that will tabulate all of these. And so we're probably going to have much the same discussion next week, but let's just keep that in mind. Councilor Elliott.
That's fine. I just, Council Milonazo and I did discuss after the meeting, and he did forward me a scanned version. Council, that was from April 25th. That was the original proposal, and that was from the finance subcommittee that we had. The report that we got, the final report before we got the vote from Skanska, was dated June 1st. And the delta is $6 million, it's not 22. And that was That was the final design estimates that they came in before we took the final vote. So it's not 22 million, it's 6. We all received it on June 1st, and that's the distribution that I have on the spreadsheet. So I just want to clarify that.
Thank you, Counselor. Any further discussion? If not, we'll move on to the next item, which is the school busing study. Any discussion regarding the school busing study? Hearing no discussion, we'll move on.
Mr. Mayor?
Yes, Counselor
So,
Elliott.
through you to the manager, today is the date, it was at 3 o'clock?
Yes, it does say October 7th, but it was actually 17th. We had a really interesting meeting. We actually, Tom Miliano from UMass Lowell actually has brought with him a professor from the computer science department that is going to be working with his students, and they're going to be studying busing in the city of Lowell. And it's way above my head, but they're going to be using math, algorithms, and that to do a study of not only how we're going to do it now, but how we can do it in the future. So it was an interesting meeting. They've got to get a lot of data from the school department about the students and the residences and that, and then we'll be able to get a report. But UMass Lowell is being a great partner in helping us out on this.
That's great news. That's what happened with MIT. That's why I filed the motion, because we have a resource here in one of the top engineering schools in the country. And if MIT can do it, we can do it as well, and that's good. They use algorithms, you're right, Mr. Manager, and that was the key to saving the city of Boston millions and millions, and reducing time that kids are on the bus. So I look forward to that. We should do this anyway, again, just like the parks, just like the wastewater. It should have been done, and and I did file a motion several years ago to try to address this, knowing that the busing costs are go up. So I think this is a way to reduce these costs and keep, get a better system in place. And why not use the university, and why not use, as you say, Mr. Manager, math and algorithms to figure this out rather than just by, the way it used to be done. So thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Any further discussion on this item? If not, we'll move on to the regulatory and zoning approvals. We have a registered speaker for that.
Laura Gilmore.
Good evening. My name is Laura Gilmore. My address is 555 Andover Street. I'm here tonight to comment on this item as part of the conversation that the City Council has been having for several weeks about permitting, environmental review, and disclosure for this project. I think I could have just as easily spoken during the conversation that was just had on the previous item. And on that note, I would just say that if people are getting scared and it's because there's incomplete information, and the estimates are changing because information is coming up little bit by little bit. I've been surprised in this item tonight and in previous meetings by some incomplete information. A recent example is that both the city manager and the city solicitor did not provide complete information in the conversation about the MIPA process, not naming the appropriate agency responsible for the review, and mischaracterizing that process as being a 30-day review when that is the time frame for one piece of the comment period on a multi-phase project. Tonight you've got a list of approvals, which again doesn't cross-reference that need for environmental review and doesn't mention that we still have not established what mitigation will be needed through that environmental review in looking at not only the site plan, but the access surrounding that site. A lot of those approvals that are listed make clear that this site is not going to be a straight shot, that you're requiring a lot of special approvals outside of your normal planning process. And as already been mentioned, you're depending on approvals from other communities for some pretty important aspects, including the aspect of the access. No one has yet addressed how you're intending to build sidewalks through a wetland in Tewksbury. And the sidewalks that have been discussed previously are 5-foot sidewalks on one side of the street, not addressing how it would fit with the Complete Streets Ordinance. Now, information here should not just be presented when someone finally asks the right question. It's no longer appropriate to hide behind a lack of understanding of the full process. The environmental review, regulatory approvals, and the access challenges of this site are not unexpected roadblocks. These are basic project requirements that any planner, engineer, or project manager has been aware of. And yet, when I've spoken to members of the project team, called the manager's staff, I've been told that they aren't part of the project or that they didn't know that they had to do that. Incomplete information is not being provided. And in spite of the conversation a few weeks ago requesting that information be added about the permitting and review process to the project website, I don't see that anything has been added for the public. Now, I'm not here tonight to tell you that you can't follow this permitting process, make it through these approvals, and build at Cawley, but rather that you should be clear with all of us that this will be complicated, expensive, and time-consuming. It will require several additional public processes in which you will have to address all of the impacts and mitigation required for the project and all of the public comments received. It will be costly beyond what has been previously considered and what you saw in estimates when you approved this. So I hope that through this process and continuing in the next few weeks, rather than focusing on construction delays while we get the right information, that you turn back to providing all of the citizens of this city with full information on what the entire process will look like, and turn back to all of us for a public process on what not only the site design, but how you get there, all of the wetland and regulatory processes, to provide us with more information on what that process will look like and where we can engage in that process. And I fear that if you do not begin to do this again now, you're headed for a dead end. Thank you.
Thank you. Council Milonazo.
Thank you, and thank you to the speaker this evening. I appreciate the information that you were able to provide us, Mr. Manager. And again, there is a lot of steps involved, as we all know, and not only here in Lowell, but we're talking Tewksbury and Chelmsford. We're talking about votes that not only require public participation and abutters to be notified, but in some cases, in almost all cases, it requires a supermajority of either the planning board or the conservation commission in order to move this project along. So I would respectfully request that this report, I know it's not on the website, but it's on obviously the city council agenda item, but I would move this over to the website so that the residents of the city can actually see how complicated the notice of intents for each filing in each town actually is. We're talking about multiple variances from the zoning board of appeals here in the city regarding things like height, number of stories, parking. We're also talking about, again, that needing a supermajority of the zoning board. So again, it's a good report. I appreciate it, and I would request that it be put up on the Lowell High School website.
Do you want to make that in the form of a motion?
I'll put that in the form of a motion. Thank you.
So we've motioned to that effect by Council Milonazo, seconded by Council Samaras. Discussion on the motion. All in favor of the motion, all opposed, so voted. Any further discussion on this matter? This concludes the communications from the city manager. The chair would entertain a motion to accept the communications and place them on file by Council Leahy, seconded by Council Samaras. Council Leahy.
Thank you. I would ask for a suspension of rules. We have people waiting. If we could take 8.1 out of order.
Well, let's just finish up on this vote. if
Yeah,
we can.
okay. All right, thanks.
All right, all in favor of the motion to accept the communications, place them on file? Opposed, so voted. If there's, Council Leahy is asking that we take item 8.1 out of order. If there's no objection, we'll do that by general consent. Hearing no objection, we'll take 8.1 out of order, which is a city council motion by Council Leahy. Request that the city manager of the proper department provide an update regarding the property at 29 Frothingham Street. Seconded by Council Samaras. Council Leahy.
There are speakers here, so I'll let them go first.
One registered speaker, Robert Mason.
Good evening. I'd like to thank the City Council for allowing me to speak this evening. I'm here to address the changes proposed at 29 Frothingham Street. My name is Robert Mason, and I've lived at 39 Frothingham Street for 60 years. This past April marked the 70th anniversary of my family owning the property. 29 Frothingham Street, as is my home, is one of 4 two-family dwellings grandfathered within a single-family zone on Frothingham Street. Each home has 2 units. Each unit consists of 3 bedrooms, a kitchen, 1 bathroom, a dining room, a living room, and a full-season sunroom. Over the years, we've seen many owners come and go. The residences have always been owner-occupied, and the owners have always complied with the occupancy limits permitted under the law. In June of 2016, 29 Frothingham Street changed hands. Although still owner-occupied, the new owners have installed 2 bedrooms and a bathroom in the basement without permits that are currently occupied by independent parties. Also, the converted attic is being rented to another couple. The first and second floor sunrooms have also been converted into bedrooms. There are currently 10 adults and 3 children living in this property. The expanded occupancy within each unit is creating parking issues for other property owners. 4 vehicles are parked in the driveway, but 5 others are on the street. It's not necessarily the quantity of the vehicles, but the variety. They are commercial dump trucks and commercial pickup trucks that are owned by the companies for whom the tenants work. Some of these vehicles are diesel-fueled and equipped with high-volume notification sounds for backing up. Every morning at 6 a.m., these vehicles leave creating excessive noise and fumes. In addition, the congestion makes it difficult for my family and our neighbors to enter and exit our driveways. Due to the width of the trucks, maneuvering up and down Frothingham Street is also a challenge. At this time, I understand that plans have been submitted to legally convert the first floor unit into a 5-bedroom apartment with 2 bathrooms. This requires adding 2 legal bedrooms and a bathroom in the basement, which have already been put there anyway. Considering the size of the lot, proximity of the other homes, and required offsets, I cannot foresee how this can be approved. In addition, I don't understand how the existing level of occupancy is still allowed to continue. I mean, again, as I said before, there's currently 10 adults and 3 young children living in this property. And once again, I'm not here to deny anybody their rights as property owners, but I would also want to preserve the quiet, uncongested neighborhood that I've always known. As my wife and I approach our twilight years, we would like to pass 39 Frothingham Street onto a 5th generation in the spirit with which it was built, a true 2-family dwelling. If the proposed changes are allowed, this will set a precedent for any other 2-family to do the same. There are approximately 40 2-family homes within the 1/8 mile radius of my home on Wentworth, Wilder Road, Glenwood, and so on. In closing, I would like to thank the building commissioner and his department for listening to our concerns, as well as our neighbors who are present. The building commissioner and his staff have consistently shown all the parties the utmost respect, patience, and unbiased guidance to help us understand what remedies are available to us. Again, thank you again for your time.
Thank you. Council Leahy.
Thank you. I've spoken to you, through you to the manager, I've spoken to you on this on several occasions, and you know, whatever we can do for this property. I myself, I've been up and down the street, and you know, I'm hearing that it's still it got assessed somehow as a 3-family where it should be a 2-family. So I don't know if that's been addressed yet. The cars on the street with the trucks, I mean, the oil spots, the huge 5-foot oil spots all over the road from where these trucks park, parking within a foot of someone else's driveway on both sides. I mean, some of the neighbors, they can't even get in and out of their driveway safely. And just, you know, the permit schedule, if the permits have been pulled legally. And I know that just yesterday there was a stop and cease order put on the door because supposedly some new windows were going on, but the holes there were dug 5-6 feet down into the ground. So I don't know what type of a window we're putting in there. But this is a quiet neighborhood. They're nice 2-family dwellings, owner occupied. I actually owned that home from 87 to 2000. So I know the neighborhood, I know that house, and you know, the neighbors just need some relief. So anything we can do, that we need to just get over there and remedy this as soon as we can. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor. Any further discussion? Councilor Mercia.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. We have Eric Slagle here. Is there anything you could say that we could do for these people? Because I'm telling you, if I lived next door, I wouldn't be too happy either, being a taxpayer in a quiet setting and hearing something like this. It's not, we have ordinances, we have, you know, I would send them a letter stating that it is my understanding that we have a complaint here from numerous people in the surrounding area as to not being conducive to the character of the particular neighborhood. We would like to schedule an appointment to come over and talk to you or something like that. I mean, we can't just say our hands are tied.
Councilor,
Manager.
just yesterday when Councilor Leahy told me about this, I sent a building inspector up there to inspect the work that they were doing, and they issued a stop work order. So we're well aware of that address now, and we're going to make sure that we monitor it and check out the vehicles, check out the occupants, and see what we can do to help alleviate the situation up there.
Yes,
So we're going to have a full effort by inspectional services at this residence.
Well, we also have to make sure that the people that are living there and not being conducive to the character of the neighborhood understand that we're concerned about their setup, that it doesn't adhere very well to the surrounding
And we're going
neighbors.
to do that.
Do you think they get the message yet?
They
or-
will get the message.
Okay, well, I hope that they do.
They will.
'cause it's important. Yes, thank you.
Thank you.
Councilor Blanchard.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I want to thank Mr. Bob Mason for coming down. I've known Bob for a number of years. He and his family are top-notch, and they deserve more than this, and the whole neighborhood deserves better than this. Now, it's my understanding that, you know, these heavy equipment dump trucks cannot be stored on the street. I don't know to what level they are, dump trucks, but I ran an issue with a constituent not too long ago. We were able to remove them. So where are we with that? Could Mr. Slagle come up to the podium and see what's restricted on neighborhoods? Not only be a good learning lesson for the viewers at home too, but it's my understanding that we can pretty much crack down on this immediately. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Mr. Mayor, through you to the council, the property owner's already been cited for the excessively large construction vehicles on site. With respect to the kind of the pickup truck contractor vehicles, those are not illegal under the current ordinances that we have, but the larger dump truck was cited and he's already been received.
Okay, so we got them on the larger vehicles. Good, okay. It seems like, thanks to Council Leahy, it's on the forefront to the inspectional services and the managers. So, Mr. Manager, please give us an update on this property sooner rather than later. Thank you.
Any further discussion? Councilor Milonazo.
Thank you. Through you to the manager. How did it become assessed as a three-family? Do we know that?
That's the first I heard of it, Councilor. We will definitely look into it as to the assessment and what the proper assessment should be.
Okay, thank you.
Do you have the answer to that? Do you know how that happened?
I can tell you that what typically happens in cases like this is the assessor's office, when they go out to inspect a property, they assess what's there, whether it be legal or not. If you have an illegal three-family, you're paying taxes as a three-family because that's how it's being used. It doesn't mean the use is legal, but you have to pay taxes on it. So if they see a three-family, they don't go and necessarily check to make sure it got all its right permits. They just start assessing it as a three-family. So once they put the illegal third unit in, this started to be assessed as a three-family.
Thank you. Councilor Milonazo.
I guess my final question, I mean, how can you have bedrooms up in the attic without proper egress? Again, I'm glad it's not on.
Yeah, we'll check into
right,
that for sure.
on the radar, okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Councilor Samaras.
Question, I mean, I was concerned about the three-family, but we were told that they're putting windows in the solid, are they making a fourth floor? I mean, are they making it into a four-family? Did I misunderstand this?
No, my understanding
this
that
just rooming?
what they were doing is they were doing construction on the property that they didn't have a permit for, correct? Can you just explain why we issued a stop work order?
Yes, they had been issued a permit to do some interior reconstruction of the basement. They were exceeding the scope of that permit. They were starting to do some exterior work, and the permit was not.
So will they put larger windows in the,
I believe they were putting in window wells because you can't have bedrooms in a basement unless you have sufficient windows for lighting. That's a requirement under the
so
state.
are they going to a four-family, or are they allowed to, can they do that? I mean, at this point,
My understanding is that they are, it will still be, it will never be able to be a 3-family or a 4-family. They are attempting to take the 2-family and have the first unit be the first floor and the basement as one unit. And and so that would be why they're.
so basically it's going to be a rooming house?
No, it's going to be a 5-bedroom
But
apartment.
it's still a rooming house.
No, rooming house, that's not a rooming house, but a rooming house is a separate entity, but it's
I
going to-
understand that, but to me, I mean, it's, as far as the people that abut that property, it's a rooming house. You can call it what it is, but
It's going to be a 5-bedroom apartment is that's what their permits are to convert the basement into 2 bedrooms.
all family members?
They would be required to be no more than 3 unrelated in the property, in that unit.
I mean, I don't understand how they can do this. I mean, this is creating a rooming house. Councilor Elliott's brought up issues in the Highlands, correct, and things like this. So, I mean, this has to be looked into. We can't have that anywhere. Thank you.
Thank you, Council Elliott. Then
Yeah, I
Council-
agree, we can't have it, and we had a zoning subcommittee, Council Milonazo, and the subcommittee spoke specifically of uses of similar nature that's happening throughout the city, but I guess my issue is, the assessors go out, they know it's a 2-family, and they assess it as a 3-family. Shouldn't a red flag go up at right at that particular point in time on the assessor card that says, this is a 2-family, and there's been, it's good to get the tax revenue, but at the same time, it's an illegal use, and it should be stopped right there, and inspectional services go over to shut it down and change the use, I suppose.
I'm certainly going to look into that issue. I'm sure when the assessor goes in, they don't know whether it's a grandfathered legal unit or not, but it's something that we should look into, and I'll talk to as part of our report on this, it'll be part of the report will include why they just assess it the way they do, and not report to the building department.
I mean, we are going to address it, but it shouldn't have gotten to this point for the folks in that neighborhood, that there's got to be a better system in place. And we are looking at addressing the zoning issues for people renting out rooms. I mean, this doesn't seem to be the case, just this builder that decides he can continue to expand, and, it takes a city council meeting for people to come down to, to address it where it should have been stopped a long time ago. I know hindsight's 20/20, but moving forward, we'll address this one, but it's got, hopefully it's not happening in other neighborhoods of the city, but assessors going out, they should perhaps get your office or inspectional services a list. Hey, these 2 lists they don't coincide. These people are expanding, and we have to send a message out there. So I think that's good. That'll be a good part of the report, Mr. Manager. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Council Mercy.
Yes, thank you very much, Mr. Mayor. Setting an example to a situation like this that's probably going on all over the city, to say, oh yeah, you have a 2-family, but you're making it into 3. Oh, we'll just charge you for the 3rd floor, 3rd apartment. In the meantime, they're making a ton of money off of that, but yet it's illegal, and we're allowing something illegal to take place. That's not a good message to send. You've done something illegal, but we'll just charge you for a 3-family, and this is not right somehow. But I want to suspend the rules, Mr. Mayor, to allow this gentleman here to speak. He didn't register, so.
If there's no objection, we'll have additional speakers.
Okay, thank you. Okay.
Hi, my name is Brian Gallagher. I own the property adjacent, and there's probably a 4-foot offset between the foundation of their home and my property. I'm disturbed by the fact that even though they pulled the permit, they did not have the permission to do the work, and they were using my property to throw the garbage. They were actually working from my property and using my property to store the debris and the remnants from the work that they were doing. So I'm disturbed by the fact that they, even though they got the permit, that it was basically an attitude of do the work and ask for permission later. And they merely get a slap on the wrist, a $300 fine, but the damage has already been done. And that is what I am concerned with. Because once as Councilor Leahy said, they have dug 5 feet down, they're not putting windows in. They're making an egress. And once that's done, how are you going to rectify it?
Thank you.
Thank you.
Council Leahy.
I just had one other thing. When Mr. Slago mentioned about the trucks that were supposedly supposed to be off the street, when I came to the meeting tonight, they're blocking Mr. Gallagher's driveway again. I mean, it's just common courtesy that you don't pull right up to the curb to someone's driveway. I mean, you don't want to start towing cars, but if the truck's not supposed to be on the street and it's still blocking driveways, it probably should be towed tonight. I mean, I don't know if Mr. Slago can come up again. Did you tell them to get the truck off the street, or were they instructed to, or?
They were issued a citation, a citation
Can the
for a
truck be towed?
violation.
I mean, if Mr. Gallagher can't get out of his driveway, is he allowed to tow?
That's a separate, if you block somebody's driveway, I would defer to the police department about whether or not they have the right to tow someone if the driveway is blocked. I mean, that's.
What about the big oil, is that, oil leaks on public streets, is that a fine?
I have absolutely no
continually?
idea. That's
Okay.
That's not within the purview.
OSHA.
Yeah, I mean, it's a big 5-foot thing. All right, thank you.
Any further discussion on this motion? Council Leahy, you looking for an update on this next week, for next week's meeting?
As soon as possible, thank you.
Thank you. If there's no further discussion, all in favor of the motion, all opposed, so voted. Returning to the agenda, the next item is a communication from the city manager requesting out-of-state travel for one employee from wastewater and one employee from the Lowell Police Department.
Move approval.
Motion to approve. Motion approved by Council Elliott, seconded by Council Belanger. Discussion, roll call.
Council Leary. Council Mercier.
Yes.
Council Milonazo.
Yes.
Council Roy.
Yes.
Council Samaras.
Yes.
Council Belanger.
Yes.
Council Elliott.
Yes.
Mayor Kennedy.
Yes.
Council Leahy.
Yes.
8 yeas.
Next, we have a vote to accept Mass General Laws, Chapter 59, Section 5, 5th C, to increase the exemption for veterans organizations to $1.5 million. The motion would be to refer this to a public hearing for October 31st at 7 p.m. Do we have
So
a
moved.
motion to that effect by Council Elliott, seconded by Council Mercier. Discussion on the motion. Council Mercier.
I know that it's going to a public hearing, but I believe, is someone here to speak on that? We just have one person, Joe Dussault.
I'm Joe Dussault, live in Dracut. I'm the president of the board of directors. The reason we're here, this is a bill that was passed 30 years ago. We're working with the city on a project right now to get Tanner Street done. And we thought this would be a great time to bring this up because I don't think anybody has worked as hard as we do helping the city manager and the city to get this Tanner Street project going. So we're asking you to consider us for this motion because VFW throughout the state are being shut down because they just can't pay their bills. They have to pay the taxes. They never applied for this. And we have worked with the city for many, many, many years. So we're asking you please to consider us for this bill. Thank you very much.
Okay, just so that you're clear, this will come to a public hearing actually on Halloween at 7 p.m. and so.
Bring the candy.
Okay. Do we have a motion to send it to a public hearing? Is it already made? All right, all in favor, all opposed, so voted. The next is under subcommittee reports. We have the zoning subcommittee for October 17, 2017. Council Milonazo.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. The zoning subcommittee met this evening at 5:30. In attendance, we had Councilor Rourke and Council Belanger as members of the subcommittee. In addition, we had Councilor Mercier, Councilor Elliott, and Councilor Samaras. From the administration, we had the city manager, Christine McCall, and Eric Slagle, along with Christine O'Connor. We actually we picked up where we were, well, we left off, actually, I can't believe it, but it was May 2nd, when we were reviewing the proposed zoning amendments from the Development Services Office. And if you recall, we actually did call out 2 items that we did approve back in the spring, but we kept basically the balance of the proposal, which totaled about 12 pages, to bring back to the zoning subcommittee. At the end of what I thought was a very productive discussion, and we got good information from a number of the neighborhood groups, we voted on a motion by Council Rourke, seconded by Council Belanger. We moved to split the accessory dwelling unit as well as a tourist home out of the proposal and to present to the city solicitor's office an amended version where we actually did remove 6.1.5 as it relates to the number of vehicles on the site from the standpoint of if you had bicycles on the site. And we ended up removing that entirely from the proposed changes. So that would be then, as I mentioned, referred to back to the city solicitor's office to be drawn up in proper form to be sent to a public hearing. The second item that we took up was the proposed marijuana zoning ordinance. And again, we had a very good discussion amongst the committee members as well as from Christine McCall, who did a very good job putting this proposal together. We did decide to table any action this evening because we were going to be given a zoning map, which actually showed all of the various areas within the city, and there aren't many, that a proposed testing site or a recreational or a medical dispensary could actually be located. So as soon as we get that information from the administration, we will schedule another zoning subcommittee meeting to take that up. We're also going to be getting additional information back from the administration on the accessory use information as well as the tourist home. We had what I thought was a good discussion, as I mentioned, with the neighborhood groups, and I think we're going to go back and revisit some of that at the request of not only the subcommittee members, but as a result of what we heard tonight from the neighborhood group. So that I would actually put in the form of a motion to refer what we discussed tonight to the city solicitor's office for to be drawn up in proper form.
Okay, we have a motion by Councilor Milonazo to accept the report from the zoning subcommittee to the city solicitor's office to be drawn up in proper form, seconded by Councilor Samaras. Discussion on the motion, all in favor, all opposed, so voted. Chair would entertain a motion to accept the report as a report of progress unless there's any further discussion. We have a motion by Councilor Mercier to accept it as a report of progress, seconded by Councilor Elliott. Discussion, all in favor, all opposed, so voted. If there's no objection, we have 2 further reports from the wire inspector. They both have to do with National Grid. One is to request the installation of 2 new heavy-duty handhold located at 239 East Merrimack Street to allow a service upgrade, and to request the installation of a new pole and relocate overhanging wires located at Adams Street. And so do we have a motion to accept and adopt the accompanying orders by Councilor Mercier, seconded by Councilor Samaras. Discussion. All in favor, all opposed, so voted. Next under petitions, the first petition, we have a registered speaker. It's a request that the City Council review the City of Lowell firearm licensing policy. Mr. Clerk.
Daniel Gannon.
Hello again, everyone. And just for the record, it is Daniel, 2 N's, no I. It doesn't matter to me, but I don't want my father blamed for any of this stuff. First of all, I'd like to thank a couple of people that helped me with my petition. I think they definitely deserve to be recognized. Cam Kay and Jordan Geis really helped me along with this. And most importantly, John McDonald, who was running for state senate. We all know in Massachusetts it's really hard for politicians to get behind pro-gun stuff, and John signed this, no problem, no questions asked, so I think he deserves recognition for that. I'd like to start off with the 40-day audit that was recently done by the state. It was performed by Ms. Suzanne Bump, I believe it was. She went through all last 2 years, of all the cities and towns and how long it was taking to get their licenses out, and 89% of the cities and towns failed. Lowell was one of them. It averaged 62 days to get licenses out. And what really struck me about this was there was no asterisk for Lowell's 3-month policy as it's written currently. It's currently stated that it takes 3 months. Well, that didn't really seem to matter to the state auditor, who was going by every city and state 40 days. And it was averaging 62 days. And what's wrong about that to me is that there's no punishment on the state level. So I was wondering if there was something that the city council could maybe do to maybe help speed this process along and make sure the people that are qualifying for their gun licenses are getting it done in time, 40 days. I've been told by several people, especially lawyers, that the 31st day is an actionable offense. The person does not have their license or a denial letter in 41 days, they have an actionable offense. So over the last 2 years, there's approximately 664 people that have actionable offenses against the city of Lowell. This policy does not provide any public safety. Per the Lowell Sun, February 14, 2017, instances of shots fired in the city during that year went up from 44 to 49. And that's confirmed shots fired. That's not all shots fired, that's confirmed. Non-fatal shootings went up from 7 to 9 in that very first year of this public safety policy. Must we not forget about the felon who got a hold of a firearm, killed his girlfriend, led Nemlec on a 2-day manhunt through the Highlands. This policy did nothing. And another Lowell resident was at a house party in Drake-it, 22-year-old kid shot someone drunk at a party. Lowell resident happened in Drake-it. This policy is actually acting as a red tape roadblock for law-abiding American citizens. Since the last time we speak, I've become a firearms instructor. I'm certified to teach 2 classes. I am certified with the state, registered with the Mass State Police, and there are many people in Massachusetts now that have a license because of my training. And in those 2 years, I've gone around to many Lowell residents trying to get them to exercise their rights, including my own family members. And they've either told me Lowell doesn't give out gun licenses, which is a myth from decades of very restrictive policies, or they're just not willing to play ball and write an essay and get letters of recommendation and take extra classes that are nowhere in the state mandate. And I would like to bring up a WCVB report that just came out within the last couple of weeks, where it listed the amount of LTCs in every city and town in the state. According to their report, which I confirmed this morning via email, there are only 2,400-ish LTCs in the city of Lowell. We were told during the last time we went through this that there was around 6,000 LTCs in Lowell. So either we were giving incorrect information or 3,000 gun owners left this city in the last 2 years, which just doesn't seem like a regular number, a good number to me. The Mass State Police have certified me to train other people on firearm safety in the home and to teach live fire classes. But for some reason, I still would not be qualified for an unrestricted license unless I put words on paper. I have more of a right to carry a firearm in Vermont, New Hampshire, and Maine than I do in Massachusetts, only because I've chosen to spend my life here so far. Please support my petition, seeing as I, nor others, have $10,000 for a lawsuit, and this is the best thing I can come up with. I am confident of the policy's illegality because I have spent the last 2 years roaming the state house halls, talking to whoever will listen. I've worked with gun rights associations, and no one can tell me anywhere that license authorities can do whatever they want. And most importantly, after a public hearing in Boston, I was able to talk to Representative Paul Tucker out of Salem. He's a former police chief, and he sits on the Joint Committee of Public Safety and the Judiciary Committees. The people that make the gun laws and the Judiciary Committee are the people, from what I understand, cross the T's, dot the I's, make sure all the laws don't conflict with other laws and civil rights and federal laws. He said to me, and I quote, and I've got 2 people here that can back it up, "I know Bill, and I don't know where he's coming from with this. Chiefs can't add new requirements." And I would like to leave on a quote from Supreme Court Justice Clarence Thomas, who spoke on a recent dissent for not hearing a case, Peruta versus San Diego, which is about strict requirements for gun licensing. Clarence Thomas said, "I find it extremely improbable that the framers understood the Second Amendment to protect little more than carrying a gun from the kitchen to the bathroom." Thank you.
Thank you. We have one more speaker.
Thayer Eastman.
Good evening. My name is Thayer Eastman, 53 Fowler Road. As a Lowell resident for nearly 20 years and as a veteran, I find it very disheartening that the roadblocks put in front of myself in order to get the process started and to apply for a gun license are so high. Again, as a veteran, I don't understand why there isn't, more room for an opportunity for a law-abiding citizen to have a right to protect themselves and also to exercise their constitutional rights. So that's, I would just like to support Dan Gannon and ask that you guys look into this for me. Thank you.
Thank you. Chair would entertain a motion to refer this to the Law Department for report and recommendation by Council Milonazo, second by Council Belanger. Discussion on the motion. All in favor, all opposed, so voted. Next is, under miscellaneous, is a request for the installation of a traffic light at the intersection of Perkins Street and Aiken Avenue. Chair would entertain a motion to refer to the traffic engineer for report and recommendation by Councilor Samaras, second by Councilor Mercia. Councilor Mercia.
Thank you. On this Perkins Street, Aiken Street light, first I want to know who's going to pay for it, which would be probably the city. And I know that they don't run cheap. I just want to know if there's a price associated with it too, okay? Thank you.
Thank you. Any further discussion on the motion? Councilor Lee.
There's not a speaker here for this tonight?
No.
No, okay. And I'm sorry, we're gonna refer this to,
Refer to the traffic engineer for report and recommendation. That's the motion.
all right. We haven't heard anything from you, Mass Lowell, on this, right? Okay, thank you.
Any further discussion on the motion? All in favor, all opposed, so voted. Next is a request to change the 30-minute parking sign to a customer-only parking sign at the business located at 109 Aiken Avenue. We have a registered speaker for this.
Thayer Eastman.
I just happen to have also seen this on the agenda, and I do go to that haircut establishment, and I have experienced difficulty finding a parking spot. So I just wanted to, might just be semantics, but I just wanted to thank you for listening.
Thank you.
Mr. Mayor,
Yes, Councilor Mercia.
in all the years I've been here, I never heard of a customer-only parking sign that's authorized by the city of Lowell. So maybe 30-minute parking. I don't know how long it takes to get your hair done. I know it's a long time. Maybe we could probably notify the woman. Maybe we could have 2-hour parking or something, because I don't want her to just have this wasted. I think there's no such a thing as a sign like that. So if we could somehow send the lady try to see if we could get a 2-hour parking. I mean, I don't want her to go out of business. I know how important it is to have your hair done. I should have had mine done, but I didn't, but that's okay.
Thank you, Councilor. So the chair would entertain a motion to refer to the traffic engineer for report and recommendation by Councilor Mercia, second by Councilor Rourke. Discussion on the motion. All in favor, all opposed, so voted.
Just quickly,
Councilor Leahy.
in the report, can he just, I think the goal here too is to allow enough time, but to keep the turnover going too, because, so could that be part of the report, that recommendation on how to get the turnover so she can use it? Thank you.
Next is, under City Council motions, is a motion by Councilor Leahy, requests that the city manager of the traffic engineer address safety concerns of pedestrians crossing in front of City Hall, seconded by Councilor Elliott. Councilor Leahy.
Thank you. Motion speaks for itself. We're fully aware of the cars that speed by City Hall, so any recommendations And I know that, I think that this intersection is due for reconstruction, but anything in the meantime, recommendations to slow the traffic down would be appreciated. Thank you.
Thank you. Any further discussion on the motion? Council Milonazo.
I'm not a traffic engineer, but it could be the fact that we switched to a blinking yellow at that intersection, so, so look forward to the report.
Any further discussion? If not, all in favor of the motion, all opposed, so voted. The next motion is by Council Leary and Council Leahy. Request that the city manager have the Department of Public Works paint and update crosswalks in front of the Father Martin E. Norton Manor at 117, 137 High Street, seconded by the chair.
Thank you. This motion speaks for itself. This was actually brought up to my attention from Council Leary. So if we could have this done, Jim said immediately, but, I'll give you a couple of days. So if we could just address it to get it done, that'd be great. Thank you.
Thank you. Any further discussion on the motion? If I could point out, I brought up a similar motion at the same address several weeks ago, but I think that from the discussion that I've heard, that it's going to require more than just painting the crosswalks. I think that the people that end up crossing there sometimes take their life in their own hands, and that there's been several people that have been injured by motor vehicles. So I think it's going to require more than that, but I'll be looking forward to the report, as I'm sure everybody else will. Any further discussion? All in favor of the motion, all opposed, so voted. The next motion of the evening is by Council Elliott. Request that the city manager provide an update regarding the progress at the Rourke Bridge, seconded by Council Leahy. Council Elliott.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I know that probably every person on here has filed some motion in some form of or manner regarding the Rourke Bridge. I think I've been doing it for 20 years. So we did get the report, and I know there was an article in the newspaper, but I filed the motion just to get more of a detailed report from you, Mr. Manager. I know the report said you had been, or the memo from Mr. McGovern said we have, there were 4 options, as, I think there was actually a subcommittee, ad hoc subcommittee, way back when on this, and it's good news. I guess I'm just a little bit leery or nervous that we are actually going to proceed on this, and I think motions by, I think, myself and you, Mr. Mayor, about the feasibility and this expiring, which will throw the whole, throw the whole system, the whole process into disarray, and it does expire. So does this mean that one of the options will be picked before this study expires, and that will not trigger an environmental impact assessment?
I'll get that as part of the,
Okay.
We'll do a quick response.
Because
on
I
it.
know it was an appropriation issue, and I think,
Yes.
and that was a motion that Mayor Kennedy had filed on. And do we know what the status of that is?
Well, I know that they actually have that money still in hand.
Right.
It's just they weren't going to spend it on that because they had other priorities, but now it looks like they're going down the Rourke Bridge, and I just want to make sure they go. I'm meeting with the delegation. This is very timely. I'm meeting with them tomorrow morning.
Okay.
So I'll ask them tomorrow morning for an update and whether they're going to take that, like that 1.2 million, I think it is, and use it for the environmental study.
Okay.
Yep.
So, but they'll only use that study once an option is picked?
Yes.
Correct?
I think
so. There is going to be option. Do we have any idea? And I know that'll be part of the report, but just I'm a little anxious and enthusiastic that something is actually going to happen. So they'll pick an option within the next. Any idea?
I'll have a better idea after tomorrow morning's meeting.
Not
I
as
think.
quickly as those crosswalks that are going to get.
Well, maybe 3 days, not 2.
Okay, well, I appreciate the report. I think it's.
We'll get it as quickly as
It is good
possible.
news. I know it's not going to be done tomorrow, but there is progress and money, and it's just good to reassure people in Pawtucketville that are affected by this that, and they don't believe it anyway until it's actually done, but that it's, we're not going to start from square one because there was part of the study was a traffic, was federally funded. Through NEMCOG. So in any event, I know I'm rambling on here and it's getting late, but I think it is good news, and it'll be good to get a report knowing that you're meeting with the delegation that this is in fact going to be a reality sometime in the near future. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. No, I think it's a good motion. I'm going to support it. Mr. Mayor, through you to the manager now. Mr. Manager, is there a possibility with the proposed market basket project gonna soon be going in front of the land use boards? Is there a chance they may be on the hook for some of these upgrades, these bridge costs from the extent of that project? Is there?
That's something I'll certainly look in with with development services, what they can require them to do as far as traffic mitigation.
Correct, that's what I'm alluding to, because you said last week that they intend on keeping both supermarkets, well, at least they gave you the hint that they don't intend on closing the other store on the Wood Street side, so, yes, it would impact traffic, so I'd be curious to know. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
That the city manager of the proper department install a stop sign at the corner of Stromquist Avenue and Bowden Street. Seconded by Council Samaras, Council Rourke.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Mr. Manager, in that area, in the past couple of weeks, people have told me that there used to be a stop sign there, but there was a car accident. The stop sign was taken down and a couple of years ago, and I just want to know if they got it replaced. Thank you.
Thank you. Any further discussion on the motion? If not, all in favor of the motion, all opposed, so voted. Council Rourke.
Next motion of the evening by Mayor Kennedy, request city manager provide a report on polling locations and discuss confusion regarding polling locations prior to the preliminary election. Seconded by Councilor Leahy. Mayor Kennedy.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Through you to the city manager, Mr. Manager, the reason that I filed this motion is because there was some confusion over the polling places, particularly in Pawtucketville, for the preliminary election. So, and I think a couple of days before the preliminary election, you and I had a discussion about that. So the purpose of this motion is to make sure that there be proper notice and that the notice be consistent in the newspaper, on the city's website and so forth, so that we can avoid that confusion going forward. And that's the sole purpose of the motion. But I don't think that, I'm expecting that to be a bigger turnout, and certainly there's no reason why everybody shouldn't know where you can vote beforehand. So that's the point of it.
All in favor, motion passes. Last motion of the evening by Mayor Kennedy, request city manager secure the current LTC policy on coverage of forums and candidate nights for municipal elections. Second by Councilor Leahy. Mayor Kennedy.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This motion was because, I filed this motion because last week, when the Belvedere Neighborhood Association held a candidates night for the school committee candidates, it was not covered by the LTC, which, if they were too busy to do that, then that's fine, but apparently they were at a different event that was up at the senior center instead of being at this event. And for this event, as it turns out, it's really the only candidates night that the school committee was going to have. And therefore, it's the only opportunity that the electorate would have had to take a closer look at the candidates and how they responded to those questions. So what the motion asks for is just that the LTC make known their policy on this. Now, in preparation for this motion, I had a discussion yesterday with Council Leary, who's already set up a meeting for October 19th to discuss it at the LTC board meeting. So hopefully this Council Leary will be able to take care of this whole matter on the 19th. But I do think that policy should be clear, and I think that that it's just too bad that they weren't able to cover that school committee candidates forum.
Mr. Manager?
We have a contract with LTC where we pay them to cover events, and it's our opinion that they were contractually obligated to cover that event, and they didn't. So we will be following up with that to make sure that they cover the events that they're contractually obligated to.
Okay, thank you.
Councilor Pelagia.
Thank you, Mr. Vice Chair. I think it's a great motion by the mayor, I really do. It was really, I think, hurtful to the electorate, really, to see these candidates speak. I wasn't there. I know Councilor Leahy was there. He raved about how the candidates did, and I've met just about all of them, and they were an outstanding bunch of candidates, and we're very lucky. And they were unable to get their message out, and they should have been. The city of Lowell, you know, works with LTC, and we have a great relationship, and the ratepayers are charged, I believe, a fee monthly for this local access channel, and they should have been there. It's their due diligence to be there. I concur with the manager's opinion that they should have been there, and it should have been replayed. Now, we're sort of having the same problem. I mean, our debates are being filmed. We have this council working very hard to get reelected. We have candidates working very hard, and they weren't replayed from what I understand, and that's not fair either. We're all there. There's not many people in the audience, unfortunately, and to go through all that and to just have it live is a little unfair to us as well as the electorate. So I think there's problems all around on this, and I'd like to get some answers too as well. So I look forward to the motion response. Thank you, Mr. Vice Mayor.
Those opposed, all in favor, motion passes. Is the motion part of the agenda announcements? Councilman Rustia, not this week.
Move to adjourn.
Good night.